This is part 5 of the mini-series on autism and attention. In this mini-series, we have considered 3 cognitive theories of autism, focusing on non-social aspects of ASD. These theories include the idea that people with ASD show a deficit in disengaging attention, that they have an increased tendency to process visual details at the cost of processing the global wholes, or that they need greater information consistency for learning. We have shown that none of these theories were broadly applicable to children with ASD. Other findings in the literature have emerged recently supporting our view that broad attentional deficits are unlikely the cause of autism. These findings may come as a surprise given how influential these particular theories have been. But should we be surprised that deficits in non-social aspects of cognition are not consistently supported? To some degree, we should be surprised by the failure of the domain general theories. Some of these theories have been highly influential. They are widely cited with sometimes striking data, and it is difficult to undo an established belief. The failure of domain general theories may also be surprising because of high comorbidity between ASD and ADHD. In all of our studies, children with ASD scored significantly higher on parental report of ADHD symptoms. More broadly, about a third of the children with ASD have clinically significant ADHD features. One might think that if these children have features of ADHD, they surely should show deficits on tests of attention. It is important to realize, however, that social deficits could manifest as attention problems. Items such as not listening to when spoken to could reflect a problem with social and communication skills. But of course, a failure to support domain general theories is perhaps not surprising. After all, why should we expect domain general deficits when the condition is diagnosed on the basis of social and communication deficits? Why do we think that such tests would consistently reveal impairments in attention and other non-social functions? You might say, well, that's because autism is featured by a triad. In addition to social and communication deficits, individuals with ASD must also manifest restricted interest and stereotyped or repetitive behavior. Okay, so these latter conditions would imply that non-social deficits co-occur with social impairments. But it's important to note that the tests of restricted interest and repetitive behaviors are not rigorous in the diagnostic tools. Strong interest in specific domains may be quite prevalent, but those with greater social skills may know when to share such interests with others and when not to, and therefore are less likely to come across as having restricted interests. In other words, social and communication deficits may lead to the manifestation of restricted interest. In addition, with the exception of a couple items in testing of very young children, the autism diagnostic tools have no tests for attentional deficits or other domain general functions. Because language and social skills only partially overlap with domain general cognitive abilities, it is unlikely that a tool that's specifically designed to identify social and communication deficits would also discover anything coherent in other cognitive functions. And this leads us to the question of whether the way ASD is currently diagnosed might have contributed to the slow progress in science and in practice. The diagnostic tool groups all individuals who have social and communication deficits and who manifest restricted interest or repetitive behaviors. As in other psychological domains, grouping of exemplars makes sense, provided that such grouping carves nature at its joint. It would not, for example, make sense to group everyone under 5 feet 5 together and hope that we would find coherence among them in cognitive abilities, psychopathology, and so on. So one naturally wonders whether the core features of autism carves out a coherent category with uniform brain basis, cognitive mechanisms, and genetic basis. When researchers examined the general population, it seems that the triad of autism, language, social, and restricted interest show relatively low correlation in the range of 0.2. That autism is a heterogeneous condition is not a secret, yet the heterogeneity may be a necessary side effect of how it's been diagnosed. And the diagnosis could be, or the diagnostic tools could be an obstacle toward making sense of this wide spectrum. To summarize, I presented some evidence that domain general theories of autism are not broadly supported. This does not imply that autism is a domain-specific problem only. The mind blindness aspect of autism may be a domain-specific problem, but other elements, such as restricted interest, appears separate. Further progress in this field will require a re-evaluation of how autism is diagnosed and to identify categorization of subtypes of autism that do cohere in genetics, brain function, or cognitive mechanisms. This concludes the mini-series on attention and autism. I hope you enjoyed it.